So into the final minute and Olive in possession, but this is where Mabel is strong, chasing the game, using that intensity. We saw it in the semi-final, staring at a slightly torn cloth rabbit for over 7.5 minutes. And perhaps a few signs of overconfidence from her rival, a bit of showboating. Needs to be careful. And there's the change from the classic hold, still placed on the outside though, great technique. And a glance at the youngster who shows little emotion, but her mind will be empty. 20 seconds to go now. Olive closing in on victory and that coveted prize of being told she's a very good dog. One paw to control and a switch. Now Mabel sensing this might be a chance, still waiting, still believing. And you wonder what Olive is doing here, only has to hold on. Going to the upright though, high tariff with no opposable thumbs, high risk at this stage. And it's gone and Mabel takes it. No mercy from the younger dog, who takes this victory just as time runs out. A famous win built on patience and sheer belief. For Olive, only thoughts of what might have been, but only herself to blame. She's given this one away, and that will hurt most of all. Bad dog.
So Olive and Mabel, obviously, they've become an internet sensation. And, I mean, that's. Had you actually started writing the book before lockdown?
No. So that came after. I mean, the offer of a book came in after the first video, which put out, which was them sort of racing to eat their breakfast, and as soon as that went viral, really, I think the publishing world is one of taking risks and taking gambles and seeing if something is quite popular, and they saw this and thought, let's see if he'd like to write a book about Olive and Mabel. And yes, of course I did, because apart from anything else, when you're looking at it brutally, I'm a freelance sports broadcaster, and there isn't any sport for me to commentate on until so it's 6 months really, I think, without sport, because the events I commentate on, all the big events, have gone. And so you think, well, I'd quite like something to do, and I wouldn't mind having some income to pay for the dog's kibble. So it was fortunate that someone came in with that offer, and it's been fun writing it, because you end up thinking a bit more about your relationship with your dogs and trying to sort of share that story. And you realize that you're not just writing about your dogs, you're writing about everybody's relationship with their dogs, because it'll be very, very similar. And I think during lockdown, that relationship between people and pets and dogs, perhaps in particular, has become even closer, and we've become more dependent on them for a bit of therapy. So it's been a very interesting experience.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I know sort of in the dog training world, we're all starting to think about, what happens when everyone starts going back to work? How do we look after dogs? That, because the dogs are used to having their pack all around them and have done. And with all the best will in the world, we think, oh, no, we must keep the dogs sort of used to just being on their own occasionally, and then it sort of doesn't really like but because we've relied on their camaraderie and their
absolutely
complete optimism all the time, whatever's going on.
Well, I mean, at the moment, so this would be, as I'm speaking to you just now, would be the second day of Wimbledon. I'd be away for 2 weeks, and then I would go straight from Wimbledon to the Open Championship. That's another week, and then I would have gone straight from the Open Championship on the Monday to Tokyo for the Olympics, so 3.5 weeks out there. So I'd be away, from my dogs for 7.5 weeks. And I would miss them dreadfully, and they would miss me, but they get used to me not being here. And as you say, at the moment, I'm around all the time, which they love. But then if I go away, you can tell, even if I go away for, a 20-minute walk on my own and come back, or go for a run, or go for a cycle for a couple of hours and come back, I mean, you always get a good welcome from your dogs anyway, but I suspect it's just a little bit more fulsome at the moment, because they're thinking, whoa, where did you go? You've been with us for every hour of every day for the last few weeks. So it's going to be interesting, as I say, that separation anxiety for pets, to sort of wean them back into the getting used to us all being away a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to ask you about how Olive and Mabel have found stardom. I mean, has it changed their personalities?
Shall I get them in briefly? Let's hang on a second. Let me just get. Hang on a second. Olive, Mabel, Olive, come. Let's see who's first in the race. Absolutely nobody. Oh, there we are. There's Olive. Here's Olive. Olive's turned up. Mabel in
They-
the background, loitering in the background. So they know they're not really supposed to be in here because this is where we keep the dog food. So come here. You're allowed in here briefly. Yeah, so there we are. Mabel in the background. Come on, Mabel. Come here. She doesn't like it in here. Come on, you can come in here. Oh, you just push past Olive again. There we are. You're wondering. So anyway, yes, they are. All right, bye then. They are pretty relaxed. I mean, they're Labradors, so they've got a very even temperament. Sorry, there we go. I'm not coping with Zoom meetings. So they are, yeah, they're pretty relaxed. They're on a pretty even keel, and obviously they know nothing about what's going on in terms of their greater worldwide fame. So, but yeah, I mean, I've loved having them around. They've loved having, there's Olive now shouting at somebody going down the lane. Actually, that is what happens because a lot more people are out and about just now and walking. A lot more people come down this lane just outside here. So she is not happy with that at all because she thinks these people are invading her territory. So she tells them where to go, and they move on. But no, they're very happy at the moment, the dogs.
Yeah. So, I was watching the commentary. I've seen them all actually, but I remember the first one with the breakfast and activated by it. It was such a lovely, interesting piece, and obviously it's captured the hearts and the imaginations of the whole nation. And when I was watching it, I thought, wow, I wondered if that's something you've always kind of done in your head with your dogs, or have you always been watching them and just been in your head commentating on what's been going on?
Hillary, I would be a desperately tragic figure if that were the case. So, so yes, that is what I. No, I don't. I don't. As soon as I stop commentating on sport, I switch off commentary. It would be too much if I were wandering around commentating on everything. But no, it was suddenly, as you say, suddenly bereft of sports. You think, well, not that I wander around having a desperate need to commentate on everything. That does make me sound strange, but. I don't know. It was just the supposed humor in a sports broadcaster having nothing to do. Suddenly, like you say, the comedy is in that. Oh, I've got a desperate need to commentate on anything, and there are my dogs. So, and then when that first video took off, and I think it's got about 12 million views now. You thought, oh, well, that's nice. I'll enjoy that and remember that. That was good fun. But then it suddenly all the messages coming in saying, right, where's the next one?
Yes.
What? And then the next one went even more viral, if that can be a thing, and 20 million views, and suddenly you're sort of locked into it, and this is what you're doing now, and you haven't got any escape because you haven't got another job to go back to. So look, eventually we'll go back to commentating on sport when the sports I cover return. So this has been just a very interesting side project, and to kind of show yourself in a different light as well, because like to say there's a little bit of wit to it, and people like to see that there's more to you than perhaps just describing sport.
And I suppose it's connected you with a whole different world as well.
Totally.
World, and then there's the dog world.
Well, there is, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting that you should say that because I was doing a golf podcast. I've taken a bit of a break just to concentrate on a lot of dog-related things, but so I did a golf podcast, and it was quite a popular golf podcast. But then when I would tweet out, hey, there's a new episode of the Pepper Pod golf podcast available, I was suddenly getting all these messages going, that's not really why I'm here. I'm here for Olive and Mabel, because I suddenly had 300,000 new followers on Twitter who were there because they were dog people.
All wearing
bellies. I'm not saying that there aren't dog people who are big sports fans. Of course there are, but they weren't necessarily in for the golf. And I drew a little Venn diagram. Next time I posted about my golf podcast, I drew a little Venn diagram, and it's A and B. And A, people are interested in golf. B, people are interested in dogs. And there was just the tiniest intersection between A and B of people who are interested in both. And that's pretty much how it was. So maybe I've converted some non-sports fans to sport and vice versa, sports fans to dogs. But hey, they're not mutually exclusive. I love both of them. Dogs a bit more though.
Olive and Mabel, are they going to go on a walk on Saturday?
Yes, so Saturday, yes. Well, I mean, listen, they go on countless walks every day. So we'll do one for autism on Saturday. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell them what it's for, and they'll say, "Look, I just care that we're going for a walk." So, but all the better. No, because I've got a friend of mine, his son has autism, and they have a dog, and the dog certainly helps. So I know, the value of it. I mean, listen, dogs are, whether it's dogs for autism or dogs for so many types of therapy, dogs are so important. I mean, it's, we think of them as, and certain people maybe who don't quite understand the importance of dogs think of them just as a pet, as you might have a budgie or a goldfish or whatever. And I'm not saying that they're not important pets, but dogs bring so much in terms of help with uh, and I think about it in the last 2 months in terms of lockdown, 3 months, in terms of our own mental therapy and well-being. They're just so important in being able to keep us in an even keel. And I do know how much they do in terms of people who are, have autism as well. So it's just, I think it's wonderful that we have discovered as humans more and more what dogs can do for us in daily life, not just in performing tasks, but in being companions in terms of mental welfare and mental well-being and helping out for all of us. And again, for even people like me interacting with the dogs, I talk to my dogs all the time. And again, throughout this whole process, you are just talking and interacting with the dogs. They are sort of the morale officers of the family, especially Labradors. Again, they just bounce around in quite happy fashion. So if you're feeling a little bit low or stressed, whatever it might be, you just go over and visit one of the morale officers and have a chat. And they've got tremendous empathy as well. I think they can sense when, we might be a bit tired or low or stressed or angry or whatever it might be, and they're always just there for you. That's what they are. Dogs are just there for you as sounding boards, and maybe just a scratch of an ear. That's all it takes at times.
Yeah, it's true. Well, it's been really delightful talking to you and finding out sort of more about how the story of Olive and Mabel came around.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that I love the idea that Olive and Mabel will be walking for Dogs for Autism on Saturday.
They will be, definitely will be, yeah.
Fantastic.